The massive station floated in space like a metal city. Its walls gleamed silver against the stars, and ships from 12 different worlds docked at its ports. Inside the grand chamber, representatives from across the galaxy sat in a perfect circle. The air hummed with translation devices working to turn alien words into sounds each species could understand. Ambassador Tae-Min Park straightened his black suit and looked around the room. He had been doing this job for 30 years, talking to alien races and trying to keep peace. Today felt different. Today felt final. Behind him sat Captain So-Ra Kim in her blue military uniform, her hand resting near her weapon. Dr. Wu Jin. Lee shuffled through his papers, checking facts about alien cultures one last time. At the center of the circle stood Council Speaker Veltarax. The insect-like creature's 4 arms moved as it spoke, its voice coming through the translators as a cold, mechanical sound. "We gather today to hear humanity's latest demands," it said. The word demands carried a tone of disgust. Park stood, up slowly. Around him, alien eyes watched. Some glowed red like coals. Others were black as space itself. A few had no eyes at all, just sensors that saw in ways humans could not understand. "Honored representatives," Park began, "we do not come with demands. We come with a proposal for peace." War Marshal Grixnos laughed. The sound was like rocks grinding together. His gray skin was covered in scars from 100 battles, and his massive frame made the chair beneath him look like a toy. "Humans speak of peace, while their colonies spread like disease across our territories. The territories you speak of were empty when we arrived," Captain Kim said, her voice steady but sharp. "We terraformed dead worlds. We built cities where nothing existed." "Empty?" The crystal being called Elder Zeph-Ilia pulsed with light. When it spoke, its voice sounded like singing glass. "Young race, we claimed those systems before your species learned to make fire. What you call empty, we call patience." Dr. Lee leaned forward. "With respect, Elder, your people have not visited those systems for over 3,000 years. Human settlers found no signs of current habitation, no markers, no..." Silence. Veltarax's mandibles clicked together. "The young human speaks of things beyond his understanding. We do not mark territory like animals. We simply know what is ours." Park felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his voice calm. This was why he had come. This was humanity's last chance. "Then let us discuss what can be shared. Our proposal is simple. First, an immediate ceasefire in the Outer Rim. No more attacks on human colonies. No more Korath raids on our supply ships." Grixnos slammed his fist on his chair's armrest. The metal dented under the blow. "My warriors strike only at invaders. If humans leave our space, there will be no raids." "Your space?" Captain Kim stood up, her hand moving closer to her weapon. "The Hadley colony had 50,000 people, children, families. They were farming empty worlds at the edge of known space. Your warriors killed them all." "Weak beings die easily," Grixnos said with a shrug. "This is the way of things." The room fell quiet. Park could hear his own heartbeat. He had seen the reports from Hadley Colony. The images still gave him nightmares. "Second," he continued, his voice harder now, "we propose neutral buffer zones between human and alien territories, spaces where no one can claim ownership, places where we can trade and meet without conflict." The Serpentine representative from the Nagai Collective hissed. "Humans want to divide the galaxy like a meal. This is not how civilized races behave." "Third," Park pressed on, "joint peacekeeping forces, mixed crews from all species working together to stop pirates and raiders. Humans have proven effective at this work." Elder Zephilia pulsed brighter. "Human methods are crude. You solve problems with violence and machines. True peace comes from understanding the natural order. Humanity has existed for mere moments. We have maintained harmony for millions of years." Dr. Lee shuffled his papers. If I may, Elder, our studies show that galactic conflicts have actually increased over the past 1,000 years. Before humanity joined the galactic community, there were 17 active wars. Now there are 3, and 2 of those involve attacks on human settlements. Your statistics mean nothing, Veltarax clicked. Humans bring chaos wherever they go. You form bonds with other races too quickly. You interfere in matters that do not concern you. You refuse to accept your proper place. And what place is that? Park asked. The chamber buzzed with alien voices. Park caught fragments through the translators. Servants, workers, silent followers. The words hit him like punches. Fourth, Park said, raising his voice, reparations for destroyed human settlements. We are not asking for revenge. We want resources to rebuild, materials to help the survivors. War Marshal Grixnos laughed again. Conquerors do not pay the conquered. If humans are too weak to hold their worlds, they deserve to lose them. And finally, Park continued, ignoring the insults, we propose a joint council with equal representation, 1 voice for each major species, including humanity, decisions made together, not by ancient hierarchies. The chamber erupted. Alien voices rose in anger. Veltarax's mandibles clicked rapidly. Elder Zephilia's light flashed in patterns that hurt to look at. Even the usually calm ethereal began making sounds like wind through caves. Enough! Veltarax shouted. We have heard the human proposals. Now we vote. Park sat down heavily. He knew what was coming. He had seen it in their eyes, heard it in their voices. Humans were newcomers. Humans were different. Humans did not know their place. One by one, the alien representatives voted. No. Refused. Unacceptable. Denied. Only the Lyrian representative, a small being with large, sad eyes, voted yes, 11-1 against humanity. Veltarax spread, its forearms wide. The Council has spoken. Humanity's proposals are rejected. We suggest humans reconsider their expansion and learn to coexist within the established order. Park stood up one final time. The chamber fell silent, waiting for his response. Captain Kim's hand was on her weapon now. Dr. Lee had stopped shuffling his papers and was staring at the floor. We came here seeking peace, Park said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. We offered compromise. We asked for fairness. We showed you friendship. He looked around the circle, meeting as many alien eyes as he could. You have chosen to see our desire for harmony as weakness. You mistake our restraint for cowardice. He picked up his briefcase and moved toward the door. Captain Kim and Dr. Lee followed. At the threshold, Park turned back. History will remember this moment. Remember it well. When the consequences of this decision become clear, remember that we tried. Remember that we offered peace, and you chose otherwise. The door closed behind them with a soft hiss. In the chamber, the aliens sat in uncomfortable silence. Outside, humanity began to make different plans. President Mi-young Song stood at the window of her office on Earth, looking up at the night sky. Stars twinkled like diamonds, but now each one felt like a distant enemy. Behind her, screens showed the faces of human leaders from across 57 star systems. They had been talking for 6 hours straight. The vote was clear, Admiral Hyunwoo Choi said from his flagship near Mars. His weathered face showed no emotion, but his eyes burned with quiet anger. They rejected every proposal. They see us as nothing more than useful servants, the Korath. Representative actually laughed when we mentioned the dead children at Hadley Colony, added General Dong-Soo Yang from Luna Base. His fists clenched as he spoke. Laughed, Madam President, at murdered families. President Song turned away from the window. She had hoped for a different outcome, but deep down, she had prepared for this moment. Dr. Kang, what is the status of the silent protocol? Dr. Yun-ji. Kang's image flickered on the main screen. She looked tired but determined. All preparations are complete, Madam President. We can begin immediate evacuation of all human personnel from alien territories. Our people are ready. How many humans are currently living or working outside our territories? President Song asked. 2.7 million civilians, Dr. Kang replied, reading from her tablet. Another 800,000 military and scientific personnel. We have transport ships standing by at every location. Captain Jin Ho Yu's voice came through the speakers. My fleet is already moving to the outer colonies. We can have the first evacuation ships loaded within 12 hours. President Song closed her eyes for a moment. This was not just about moving people. This was about changing everything. Admiral Choi explained the Veil Protocol to the Council. The Admiral straightened in his chair. For the past 10 years, we have been developing defensive technology that the aliens know nothing about. Quantum displacement shields that can hide entire star systems, self-repairing automated defense platforms, advanced artificial intelligence networks that can operate without human oversight. The aliens think they understand our technology, added engineer Haiwan Lim from her research station. They see our ships, our weapons, our cities, but they have never seen what we can really do. They believe we are weak because we choose not to show our strength. General Yang leaned forward. How long to activate the full defensive grid? 72 hours, Engineer Lim replied. Once activated, no alien ship will be able to enter human space. No communications will get through. We will be completely cut off from the galaxy. And completely safe, Admiral Choi added. President Song walked to her desk and sat down. The weight of the decision pressed on her shoulders like a mountain. What about the aliens who treated us fairly? The Lyrians supported us in the vote. We have sent secret messages to our Lyrian friends, Dr. Kang said softly. Many want to come with us, but their government forbids it. We can only save those who can reach our territory before the veil activates. There are aliens who work beside us, Captain Yu said. Scientists, engineers, traders, some have become real friends. This will break their hearts. Better broken hearts than broken species, General Yang said grimly. The Council made their choice. Now we make ours. President Song looked at each face on the screens. These people trusted her to make the right decision for humanity. I need to address all human worlds. Prepare for a full broadcast in 1 hour. The screens went dark except for her aide's face. Madam President, what should I tell the alien ambassadors? They are asking for meetings. Tell them we are considering their decision, President Song replied. Give them no details. An hour later, President Song sat in the broadcast studio. Cameras pointed at her from 3 angles. Behind her, the flag of United Humanity hung still and proud. She took a deep breath and began to speak. My fellow humans, across all our worlds and colonies. Today, the Galactic Council rejected our final attempt at peaceful coexistence. They made it clear that they see us not as equals, but as servants. They laughed at our losses and dismissed our pain. On Mars, Admiral Choi watched the broadcast with his senior officers. Every face in the room was grim. Therefore, President Song continued, I am authorizing the Silent Protocol. All human personnel will immediately withdraw from alien territories. All humans living on mixed worlds will be evacuated. All human operations outside our space will cease. In the asteroid belt, Captain Yu began sending orders to his transport fleet. Hundreds of ships started moving toward human colonies. We go now into isolation, President Song said. Not from fear, but from wisdom. We offered our hand in friendship, and they slapped it away. We will not offer it again. Dr. Kang sat in her command center, watching thousands of status lights. Each light represented a human outpost, research station, or colony. One by one, she began activating evacuation orders. The galaxy will learn what it means to lose humanity. President Song's voice continued. They will discover how much they depended on our skills, our innovation, our willingness to solve problems that others ignore. On alien worlds across the galaxy, humans began packing their belongings. Scientists left their research halfway finished. Engineers walked away from projects that had taken years to build. Doctors abandoned hospitals where they had saved alien lives. We take with us our knowledge, our technology, and our humanity, President Song said. What we leave behind is their problem to solve. Engineer Lim worked frantically at her control panels. The Veil Protocol was humanity's greatest secret. Quantum fields that could bend space itself. Technology that would make human territory invisible to alien sensors. Weapons that could destroy entire fleets without being detected. This is not revenge, President Song concluded. This is protection. We will defend ourselves, we will survive, and we will remember who stood with us and who stood against us. The broadcast ended. Across human space, the great evacuation began, on T. The alien worlds, the evacuations moved like clockwork. Humans had always been good at organization, and now that skill served them well. Transport ships landed, loaded passengers, and left within hours. Some aliens tried to stop the evacuations. They had grown used to human workers fixing their problems. But human security forces were ready, and no alien was prepared for the advanced weapons that suddenly appeared. Other aliens begged humans to stay. Scientists who had worked together for years, traders who had built profitable businesses, even some government officials who realized they were losing valuable allies. But the orders were clear. Every human would leave alien space. Captain Yu's last transport ship lifted off from the Centauri trade station. Below, alien workers stared up at the departing vessels. They did not yet understand what they had lost. Admiral Choi gave the final order. Activate the Veil Protocol. Engineer Lim pressed a button. Across 57 star systems, quantum fields activated. Human space disappeared from alien sensors like it had never existed. The galaxy suddenly felt much smaller and much more dangerous. Council Speaker Veltarax stood in the empty chamber where humans had once sat. 6 months had passed since their departure, and the insect-like being felt pleased with how quiet things had become. No more human complaints about fairness. No, more demands for equal treatment. The galaxy was properly ordered again. The humans were troublemakers, Veltarax said to its aide. We are better without them. But across the galaxy, problems were starting to show. Trade Minister Kexaloth stared at his computer screens in growing panic. The beetle-like alien's 6 eyes moved rapidly as he read report after report. Trade between star systems had dropped by 60% in just 6 months. Ships sat empty in spaceports. Merchants could not get their goods from one world to another. How did this happen? Kexaloth asked his assistant. The humans, sir, the assistant replied nervously. They designed most of our trade computer systems. They created the translation programs that let different species do business. When they left, they took all the knowledge with them. Kexaloth's mandibles clicked in frustration. We have our own programmers. Fix the systems. We tried, sir, but we do not understand how the human programs work. Every time we change something, more systems break down. On the industrial world of Kepler-7, Engineer Prime Zolketh faced an even worse crisis. The reptilian Saurian stood in front of a massive machine that had stopped working 3 days ago. This machine purified water for 2 billion aliens living on the planet. Have you identified the problem? Zolketh asked his engineering team. The central processor uses human-designed circuits, one engineer replied. We cannot repair it without understanding human technology, Zolketh hissed in anger. Humans are primitive. How hard can it be to understand their simple machines? But it was not simple at all. Human technology looked basic on the outside, but inside it was incredibly complex. Humans had built systems that worked together in ways alien engineers had never seen. When one part broke, everything else started failing, too. On the medical station orbiting Rigel 4, Dr. Yilnara worked desperately to save lives. The Lyrian doctor was one of the few aliens who had supported humanity in the council vote. Now she watched as her patients died from diseases that should have been easy to cure. The medicine synthesizers are not working properly, her nurse reported. They keep producing the wrong compounds. Dr. Yilnara's large eyes filled with sadness. The humans helped design these machines. They understood how to make medicines that work for all species. Without their knowledge, we can only treat our own kind. A plague had started on the outer colonies. It spread from species to species, changing as it moved. Human doctors had been working on a universal cure, something that could stop diseases from jumping between different alien races. But the humans were gone, and their research was locked away behind the Veil Protocol. War Marshal Grixnos paced in his command center, like a caged animal. The massive Korath warrior had expected to feel victorious after the humans left. Instead, he felt confused and angry. "Report on our fleet status," he ordered his subordinate. "Sir, we have lost contact with 30% of our ships," the subordinate replied carefully. "Our communication systems are failing." "How is this possible?" Grixnos roared. "The humans maintained most of our long-range communication networks, sir. They installed computer systems in our ships during the peace negotiations years ago. We thought they were gifts of friendship." Grixnos realized with growing horror that humans had been helping to maintain Korath military equipment for over a decade. Every time something broke, human technicians had fixed it. The Korath had been so proud of their powerful war machines, but many of those machines had human parts inside them. "What about our attempts to enter human space?" Grixnos asked. His subordinate looked frightened. "All our scout ships have disappeared, sir. We send them toward human territory, and they simply vanish. No distress signals, no wreckage, nothing." Fleet Commander Torvash had led 3 separate missions toward human space. Each time, his ships would approach the border where human territory began, and then everything would go wrong. Instruments would fail. Engines would stop working. Navigation systems would show impossible readings. On his last attempt, Torvash had watched his own flagship's hull begin to dissolve, not from weapons fire, but from something that made the metal itself disappear. He had ordered a retreat, just in time to save his crew. "The humans have technology we never knew about," Torvash reported to Grixnos. "Our spies were wrong. They are not weak." Meanwhile, communication networks across the galaxy continued to break down. Species that had talked to each other for thousands of years suddenly could not understand simple messages. The universal translation systems that humans had built and maintained were failing one by one. Council Speaker Veltarax called emergency meetings, but half the representatives could not attend because their ships could not navigate properly without human-maintained guidance systems. The other half could not communicate clearly because their translation devices were broken. "This is temporary," Veltarax insisted to the few representatives who could attend. "We will adapt. We will rebuild without human interference." But Elder Zephilia, the ancient crystal being, pulsed with worried light. "Young speaker, I begin to fear we have made an error. The humans were more integrated into our society than we realized." "Impossible," Veltarax clicked. "Humans existed for mere moments. How could such young beings be so important?" "Perhaps," Elder Zephalia said slowly, "we confused age with wisdom. The humans may be young, but they learned quickly. While we argued about tradition and hierarchy, they quietly became essential to our survival. On the agricultural world of Demeter Prime, entire crops were dying because the automated farming systems had stopped working. These systems had been upgraded by human engineers over many years. Without human maintenance, they began producing the wrong fertilizers and watering schedules. Millions of aliens faced starvation as food production dropped across dozens of worlds. Pirate attacks increased dramatically as law enforcement networks failed. Human-designed security systems went offline. Patrol routes that had been calculated by human strategists became useless. Criminal organizations that had been controlled for decades suddenly found themselves free to operate. Refugee ships filled with desperate aliens began moving between star systems, looking for worlds where the basic systems still worked. But fewer and fewer such worlds existed each day. Dr. Yilnara made a desperate decision. She gathered a small team of aliens who still believed that working with humans had been the right choice. Together, they began planning a dangerous mission. "We must try to contact them," she told her team. "We must reach human space and ask for their help." "But the Veil Protocol," one team member protested. "No one has been able to get through." "Then we will be the first," Dr. Yilnara said firmly. "Because if we do not try, our civilizations will collapse completely." As she prepared for the journey, Dr. Yilnara wondered if the humans would even listen. Would they help the same aliens who had rejected their friendship, or would they watch silently as the galaxy burned? The answer to that question would determine the fate of billions of lives. 18 months had passed since humanity vanished behind their mysterious barrier. The galaxy was burning. War Marshal Grixnos sat in what remained of his command center. Half the lights were broken, and the air recycling system made strange noises. Through the cracked windows, he could see his once mighty fleet hanging in space like dead metal. Most of the ships no longer worked. "Sir," his aide said quietly, "the rebellion on Korath Prime has taken the capital city." Grixnos did not look up from his desk. His own people were fighting against him now. The Korath Empire, which had conquered dozens of worlds, was tearing itself apart. Without the human-maintained infrastructure, their conquered planets could not feed themselves. Billions of Korath were starving, and they blamed their leaders. "How many ships do we have left?" Grixnos asked. 12, sir. Maybe 10 that can actually fly." The great war leader who had once commanded 1,000 warships now controlled fewer vessels than a minor pirate gang. His empire was collapsing, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. On the refugee ship Hope's End, Zentari tried to keep her people alive. The spider-like alien had been a wealthy merchant before the collapse. Now she led 3 million. Refugees from 17 different species, all crammed into cargo ships that barely worked. "Food supplies?" she asked her aide. 2 weeks left," came the grim reply. "The food synthesizers keep breaking down. We can only make nutrition paste, and not much of that." Centauri looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, behind their invisible wall, humans lived in comfort and safety. They had food, clean water, working machines, but they might as well have been in another universe. "The children are getting sick," her aide continued. "Without proper medicine, we will lose many of them." Zentari's multiple eyes closed in pain. She had voted against the humans in the council. She had believed they were troublemakers who needed to learn their place. Now children were dying because of that decision. Pirate Lord Kavrith laughed as he counted his stolen goods. The reptilian criminal had never been so successful. With galactic law enforcement collapsed, his crews could attack anyone they wanted. No patrol ships came to stop them. No security forces responded to distress calls. "The galaxy is ours now," he told his captains. "We can take whatever we want from whoever we want." His ships raided cargo vessels, space stations, even whole colonies. The pirates found weapons, food, fuel, and slaves. Some of the slaves were former council members who had once lived in luxury. "What about the human territories?" one captain asked. "Surely they have the richest prizes." Kavareth's laughter died. "Do not even think about approaching human space. I sent 5 of my best ships to probe their borders. None returned, not even wreckage." In her small ship at the edge of human territory, Dr. Yilnara struggled with failing systems. Her mission to contact humanity had taken months of planning and preparation. She had gathered volunteers from 6 different species, aliens who still believed cooperation was better than conflict. "Hull breach in Section 3, reported her engineer, a centipede-like Nexari named Kildex. "The ship is too old for this kind of journey." Dr. Yilnara looked at the strange readings on her instruments. They were at the very border of human space, but her sensors showed nothing. Empty space, where star charts said human colonies should be. It was as if entire solar systems had been erased from existence. "Are we in the right location?" she asked her navigator. "According to our records, yes, but something is very wrong with our instruments." Suddenly the ship shuddered. Warning lights flashed red throughout the bridge. Dr. Yilnara felt a strange tingling sensation, as if the air itself was changing. "What is happening?" Kildex asked in panic. Before anyone could answer, their ship simply stopped. The engines shut down. The life support systems switched to emergency power, but they were not under attack. Something had simply turned off their ship. Through the viewports, they saw lights appearing in space. Geometric patterns of blue and silver formed around their vessel. The patterns were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "We are being scanned," the navigator whispered. A voice came through their communication system. It spoke in perfect Lyrian, Dr. Yilnara's native language. "Unknown vessel, you have entered restricted space. State your identity and purpose." Dr. Yilnara's hearts raced. A human voice. After 18 months of silence, she was hearing a human speak. "This is Dr. Yilnara of the Lyriax Medical Institute," she said quickly. "I was one of the few who supported humanity in the Council. I come seeking help for the refugees and dying civilians across the galaxy." Silence stretched for long minutes. Dr. Yilnara wondered if the humans would simply destroy her ship or let it drift powerless in space. Finally, the voice returned. "Dr. Yilnara, our records confirm your support during the Council vote. However, entering human space without permission is considered an act of war by most galactic governments. Most galactic governments no longer exist," Dr. Yilnara replied sadly. "The Council has collapsed. The Korath Empire is in civil war. Billions are dying from starvation and disease. The systems you helped us build are failing everywhere." Another long silence. "Stand by," the voice said. Hours passed. Dr. Yilnara's crew tried to repair their ship, but nothing worked. They were completely helpless, trapped by technology they could not understand. When the voice returned, it was different. Older, more authoritative. "Dr. Yilnara, this is Admiral Hyunwoo Choi of the Human Defense Force. We have been monitoring the collapse of galactic civilization. We know about the wars, the famines, the plagues." "Then you know how desperate things have become," Dr. Yilnara said. "Will you help us?" "That decision is not mine to make," Admiral Choi replied. "But I can tell you that many humans want to help. We never wanted to see innocent beings suffer." "Then why do you stay hidden?" "Because the same aliens who are dying now would attack us again the moment they recovered. We learned that lesson at great cost." Dr. Yilnara felt tears forming in her large eyes. "Not all of us are like the Council leaders. Some of us learned from our mistakes." "Perhaps," Admiral Choi said, "your ship will be repaired and you will be escorted to the border. Take this message to any who will listen. Humanity remembers both friends and enemies. We will help those who prove they have changed, but we will never again trust those who show only greed and hatred." The geometric patterns faded from around their ship. Systems came back online. Dr. Yilnara felt her vessel moving, guided by invisible forces back toward alien space. As they reached the border, she saw something that made her gasp. Floating in space were dozens of automated stations, each one broadcasting in hundreds of languages. "Medical supplies and basic food available here. No weapons permitted. Take only what you need." Humanity had not abandoned the galaxy completely. They were helping, but on their own terms, from behind their impenetrable wall. Dr. Yilnara smiled for the first time in months. There was still hope. 2 years had passed since humanity disappeared behind their invisible wall. Captain Sora Kim stood on the bridge of her reconnaissance ship, looking at the reports her team had gathered. The numbers were worse than anyone had imagined. 40% of inhabited worlds abandoned, she read aloud to Admiral Hyun-woo Choi over the communication link. The galactic economy has collapsed by 80%. 7 major species are fighting civil wars. The death count is in the billions. Admiral, Choi's face was grim on the screen. And the Galactic Council? Gone, Captain Kim replied. The last official meeting was 6 months ago. Only 3 representatives showed up, and they spent the time blaming each other for the crisis. On Earth, President Mi Young-song sat in a room filled with holographic displays showing the devastation across the galaxy. Around her, the leaders of humanity debated what to do next. "We should help them," said Dr. Woo Jin Lee, the same man who had tried to warn the aliens about human nature 2 years ago. "Children are dying. Entire species face extinction. This is not what we wanted." "They made their choice," General Dong-Su. Yang replied firmly. "They laughed at our peace proposals. They called our dead children acceptable losses. Why should we risk our people to save those who would destroy us?" President Song listened to both sides. The debate had been going on. For weeks, half of humanity wanted to provide more aid. The other half wanted to stay isolated forever. "What does our intelligence tell us about their current attitudes?" President Song asked. Captain Kim's image appeared on the main screen. "Mixed, madam." President. "Some aliens still blame us for abandoning them. They say we should have stayed and accepted our place as servants. But others have learned from their mistakes. They understand why we left." "Show me the specific examples," President Song ordered. The displays changed to show footage from across the galaxy. On one world, angry aliens burned human flags and shouted curses at the sky. On another, children learned songs about the terrible humans who had abandoned them when they needed help most. But there were other images, too. Aliens working together to repair broken systems. Former enemies sharing food and medicine. Some had even built monuments to the humans who had once lived. Among them, with inscriptions reading, "We should have listened." "The most interesting case is War Marshal Grixnos," Captain Kim continued. The display showed the once mighty Korath leader. He sat in a simple chair in what looked like a refugee camp. His empire was gone, his fleets destroyed by his own people. But he was teaching young Korath about farming and peaceful cooperation. He has been telling anyone who will listen that military conquest is meaningless without the ability to build and maintain civilization, Captain Kim explained. His own words were, "The humans knew how to create. We only knew how to destroy. That is why they survived and we fell." President Song nodded slowly. "And what about the council leaders who voted against us?" "Veltarax is dead," Captain Kim reported. "Killed by angry mobs on the Velthari homeworld. Elder Zephilia has withdrawn into deep meditation. The crystal being refuses to speak to anyone, but reliable sources say it broadcasts the same message repeatedly. We were fools. We were ancient fools." Dr. Yilnara's voice came through the communication system from her position at the border of human space. "President Song, if I may speak?" "Of course, Doctor. Your perspective has been valuable. I have been coordinating the distribution of your aid supplies for 8 months now," Dr. Yilnara said. "I see both kinds of aliens every day. Those who have learned and those who refuse to learn." "Tell me about the ones who have learned," President Song said. "They work together now, regardless of species. They share resources fairly. They have stopped fighting over territory and started focusing on survival. Most importantly, they have begun teaching their children different values. Not conquest and hierarchy, but cooperation and mutual respect." "And the others?" "They still believe in the old ways. They think the strong should rule the weak. They blame everyone but themselves for their problems. Some have even formed new military groups, planning to attack human space once they recover. Admiral Choi leaned forward in his chair. How many fall into each category? About 60% have learned. 40% have not, Dr. Yilnara replied. But the ones who have learned are more organized and effective. They are slowly becoming the dominant force in what remains of galactic civilization. President Song stood up and walked to the window. Outside, Earth looked peaceful and green. Human cities sparkled with clean energy and advanced technology. Their people were safe, prosperous, and united. But beyond the Veil Protocol, billions of aliens struggled to survive in the ruins of their former civilization. "What are our options?" she asked the room. "Full isolation," General Yang said immediately. "Keep the barriers up forever. Let them solve their own problems." "Limited humanitarian aid," suggested Dr. Lee. "Expand the supply stations, provide medical help and basic technology, but no direct contact." "Conditional reintegration," offered Admiral Choi. "Help those who prove they have changed. Maintain isolation from those who have not." "Full reintegration," Dr. Yilnara said through the speakers. "Humanity leads the rebuilding of galactic civilization. You have the power and wisdom to guide us all to a better future." President Song considered each option carefully. The weight of billions of lives rested on her decision. "Dr. Kang," she said to the scientist who had coordinated humanity's exodus, "how quickly could we implement a selective contact protocol?" "We have been developing such systems for months," Dr. Kang replied. "We can identify which alien groups have genuinely changed and which still pose a threat. Selective contact could begin within weeks." "And our defenses?" "The Veil Protocol remains impenetrable," Engineer Haewon Lim reported. "We can choose when and where to make contact. If any group proves untrustworthy, we can cut off contact immediately." President Song made her decision. "We will help," she announced, "but on our terms. We will provide aid, technology, and guidance to those who have proven they value cooperation over conquest. We will share our knowledge with those who promise to use it for building rather than destroying." She paused, looking at the faces around her. "But we will never again be vulnerable to those who mistake our kindness for weakness. Human space remains protected. Any act of aggression against us or our allies will result in immediate and permanent isolation." "And if they disappoint us again?" General Yang asked. "Then we will withdraw again," President Song said firmly. "But this time, there will be no aid stations, no supply drops, no mercy for those who refuse to learn." Admiral Choi nodded approvingly. "A fair offer with clear consequences." Dr. Yilnara's voice carried relief and gratitude. "Thank you, President Song. You are giving the galaxy a second chance it does not deserve." "Everyone deserves a chance to learn from their mistakes," President Song replied. "But only one chance." The transmission ended, and President Song looked out at the stars again. Soon, humanity would begin reaching out to the galaxy once more. But this time, they would do so as teachers and guardians, not as hopeful equals seeking acceptance. The galaxy had learned what it meant to lose humanity. Now it would learn what it meant to earn humanity's trust. Some would succeed. Others would fail. But humanity would be watching, ready to help their friends and protect themselves from their enemies. The age of human naivety was over. The age of human wisdom had begun.